Progressive Voice was thoroughly displeased because Glenn Greenwald went on Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News. Watch.
All right, so Glenn Greenwald does a lot of great work, obviously, and he is somebody who was, against Russiagate and debunking Russiagate this entire time, basically. And he's actually gotten quite a bit of criticism from other lefties because he'll go on Fox News a lot. But this is something that I saw that I wanted to show you guys. So Glenn Greenwald went on Tucker Carlson's show to talk about MSNBC and other news outlets. Check it out.
He doesn't show the entire interview. He shows the last minute and a half or so. I'm not going to show any of that. I'm just going to skip to when he starts discussing it. I'll link the whole interview down below. It is worth checking out.
Yeah, this is really bad, guys. This is not what you want to do. And hear me out, okay? Hear me out before you do anything. So, going on Fox News bad? No, it's not bad, actually. So if you go on Fox News and have a Kyle Kalinske-like appearance or a David Pakman-like appearance where you go on there and you fight Fox News and you go after the Republicans, that's great, okay? Inherently just going on Fox News is not a bad thing. If you are to fight right-wing propaganda and the Fox News hosts and all their bogus trash, that's an awesome thing.
In this particular case, Fox News is actually correct about something that other networks were wrong about, to the point they wouldn't let Glenn Greenwald on to discuss it, which he was pointing out earlier in the interview. Glenn also pointed out that Tucker was having people on from both sides over the last 2 years to discuss Russian collusion, while other networks were not. There was no right-wing propaganda to fight in this case. Fox News is being honest, and the other networks are engaging in essentially left-wing propaganda. I don't know if that is fair to call it left-wing propaganda, but at the very least it is DNC and government intelligence agencies propaganda. By Progressive Voice's logic here, non-right-wing propaganda should be ignored if the only place willing to discuss it is Fox News, and you should only go on Fox News to fight them on right-wing propaganda, which sounds like some partisan hack propaganda to me.
But what he's being used as there, remember, we just saw the clip the other day of Dave Rubin being used by Dennis Prager, where Dennis Prager's like, please keep doing what you're doing because you're of great use to me. That is what Glenn Greenwald is being used as there. He's being used as a tool right there by Fox News.
Oh, he's being used? They aren't rationally discussing the story in a way that no other network has been able to? Glenn Greenwald has been repeatedly accused of being a Russian agent and a Russian stooge, so he shouldn't use Tucker and his platform to talk about the fact that he was right?
And I don't even have to offer, supreme details about Fox News and how they're, not credible, because we already know they're not credible. Fox News.
Oh, you don't have to offer details about how Fox News isn't credible? Is that where we are now? You don't have to offer any supporting evidence for your claims? You're saying that the debate is just settled? There is no evidence that Fox News is more biased than any of the other networks. You just don't like them because they have different political views than you, which makes your inability to take this interview for what it is even worse partisan hackery. Because you are a partisan hack. More or less bias is always going to depend on who and what the topic is and who is presenting the story. Over the last 2 years, Fox News has been one of the few mainstream media platforms who weren't pushing a ridiculous conspiracy theory, and this is where you want to point out they aren't credible? Do you see the irony here?
Fox News is the propaganda outlet of the Republican Party.
Weren't the other networks being the propaganda arms of the DNC? Or the federal fucking intelligence agencies? Do you care? Or do you not because you are a partisan hack?
Especially because remember there was the bombshell that had came out that Rupert Murdoch had basically had buried the story that one of the Fox News reporters had about the whole Stormy Daniels thing, and he said, "I want him to win, so I want Trump to win, so don't report on that story."
That's evidence of bias. I don't think anyone disputes that, but since we know all the other networks are biased one way or another, I'm not sure that means anything. But how does one instance of a network executive making a decision based on his own bias make the network the propaganda arm of the GOP? Wouldn't that require some kind of repeat pattern? Maybe some collusion between the RNC and Fox News executives about what gets aired?
story, which is a huge bombshell because obviously it means that that news network is entirely propagandistic and partisan.
Again, the irony. One of his problems is he seems to employ an abundance of exaggerations and absolutes. Also, it's amazing how popular he is considering how unintelligible his videos often are. But back to irony. Fox News right now is discussing partisan bias of other networks and in this case are engaging in absolutely no propaganda. He just accused Fox of being entirely biased and propaganda based on an executive using his own discretion to bury a story. He has one example of bias, and that means they are entirely partisan and entirely propagandistic, and someone can't come onto the network to talk about an important story which they happen to be telling the truth about, while other networks are engaging in propaganda.
So when you go on Fox News to be used as a tool against MSNBC and their competitors, what are you doing, dog? What the fuck are you doing? Are you kidding me?
Did you ever think that maybe Glenn Greenwald is just using Fox News as a tool to help vindicate himself and clear his name and discuss the fact that he was right? Can't he do that? Especially when other networks won't have him on? Who the fuck are you, the progressive police?
Kidding me? And then he's on Tucker Carlson's show. The guy who called Iraqi semi-literate monkeys said women should shut up and do what they're told and all this other kind of huge garbage. You're on that guy's show to talk about integrity on MSNBC and Rachel Maddow? What are you doing, dude? Are you stupid?
Of course, this had to go here. How long ago was this? 10 years? It would appear Glenn was only trying to discuss an issue he finds important, and if Fox News is giving him a platform, why shouldn't he take it? Can progressives go on shows hosted by progressives who have said things in the past that you take issue with? Is that okay, progressive police? Your point is falling flat. In the context of their jobs, they have been making shit up about a conspiracy theory to try and manufacture political dissent and influence elections without any regard for facts or alternative views, and in the process slandered and banned people from their shows like Glenn Greenwald.
Obviously MSNBC is garbage, but you're on an even worse platform, and you're shitting on them to be used as a tool for Tucker Carlson. Now, if you went and shat on...
As was already pointed out, all the other networks have been shitting on him and making up lies and spreading propaganda. The other networks were acting as the propaganda arm for the intelligence agencies and the DNC. He is vindicated after being accused of being a Russian agent and stooge for 2 years. Why shouldn't he go on Fox News and trash talk other networks? Because it offends your delicate sensibilities, he is talking to a guy who said offensive things 10 years ago?
On MSNBC, and then we're like, hey, Tucker, you're shit too. That's cool, but you're not doing that. You're going on there and you're saying one thing, and it's like, Glenn, what are you doing, bro? I don't understand this.
Maybe you aren't capable of understanding it. Maybe you don't need to be inserting yourself into every little thing acting as the moral voice for the progressive cause. You, bumble-babbling fuck, are not nearly coherent or smart enough to try and criticize Glenn Greenwald. Stay in your lane and keep talking about Sam Cedar backdrops and Dave Rubin selling out to the Koch brothers. There's a reason they call you the progressive TMZ, and not the progressive any other legitimate show capable of coherently providing rational dialogue. All you are doing is trying to regulate the behavior of progressives, and in this case, Glenn Greenwald. You have contributed nothing to society. According to you, only can people go on Fox News if they are prepared to shit on them, even if they are talking about a story they happen to be correct about. This was an honest conversation about the media's failure to properly vet and report on a specific story that has gone on in the last 2 years. This wasn't about Tucker Carlson's personal beliefs, and whether you like it or not, Tucker has a large platform, and Glenn was able to use that platform to discuss the media's failures and the fact that he was right all along, where he would not have been able to anywhere else. Grow up. If you would rather he act like a child and be disrespectful to Tucker for something he said 10 years ago in this context where it is not appropriate for it, then you are part of what's wrong in society. Stop trying to police political discourse and platforming and who can talk to whom and when about what. Do you think there is ever going to be a chance for people to get along while you go and make horseshit videos like this? Do you think anytime anyone comes onto Fox to discuss a topic that they agree with, they shouldn't unless they talk shit at the end? How about normal people having conversations? What if the US was about to enter World War III and Tucker was having people on discussing reasons not to go to war? Would you make videos telling progressives they shouldn't go on a show unless they're willing to denounce Tucker? What about if Glenn Greenwald has another Edward Snowden government leak story and Tucker's the only one willing to discuss it with him? Should he come seek out progressive police's permission to be a journalist and cooperate with Fox News because it might hurt your delicate sensibilities? How can you sit there with a bewildered face and argue that Glenn Greenwald shouldn't discuss a legitimate news story with Tucker Carlson on Fox News unless he's prepared to argue against propaganda they aren't even currently spreading? Or unless he's prepared to virtue signal about shit from a decade ago? There are more important issues in the world we should be willing to have a dialogue about. It seems you won't, because the biggest shit you can give is about social justice virtue signaling. You and your cult of progressives are a cancer on society. One of the many things Glenn has done really well is show the complete failure of the media to be able to accurately present stories. He shouldn't pass on the opportunity to go on Tucker Carlson and do that just to appease you and the partisan wing of your progressive cult's delicate sensibilities.